Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland. And this is a new interview show that I'm going to be doing with people that I know, and maybe growing from there in terms of interviewing people about their own experiences with film. So, you all spend a lot of time watching videos about me, talking about my thoughts on film. Now I'm going to be asking other people. And of course, my significant other here, Jess, is going to be the first person that I'm going to put through this, so I appreciate her participating.
Not a problem.
So, I'm going to be going through a set group of questions, and my goal is to have the same set of questions each time we're interviewing, and this way, you get some different kinds of perspectives on film coming through the Wasteland Reviewer YouTube channel. So, Jess, are you ready?
As ready as I'm going to be.
Now, Jess, what is your favorite film?
My favorite film is True Grit, the 2010 version.
Okay. So, why is True Grit from the Coen Brothers your favorite film?
I'm really upset I didn't think of this explanation for myself. A coworker years ago, shout out to Mike, he pointed out that, because I was kind of talking about how I'm not sure why it's my favorite film. In general, it's pretty, I guess it's not that unique, but like a lot of young women don't say my favorite genre is westerns, or pick a favorite movie that's a western. It's always my favorite Two Truths and a Lie thing. Throw that in there. I'm like 5 for 5 on it. So he pointed out that like Maddie is a lot who I used to try to be when I was younger. Like she really tries to be way tougher than she is, and like she's smart, but she's not smart enough to know like how deep she got herself into. Like how many 12-year-olds? She 12, 14, I forget.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, I'm not great with kids' ages once they get beyond like 10. She's like, tween to teen age. Probably not a great idea for somebody that age and without any experience to go on a manhunt. But she's determined to, damn it, and she does. And I frequently get myself into things like that where I'm going to do it, even if maybe I'm not the best person. No, that's not true. But I think that whole like pluckiness thing is what drawn it to me.
Okay.
And it has Jeff Bridges in it, so.
Rooster Cogburn.
And Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Two actors that I enjoy. Plus, I think it just hit me at the right time in my life. I was.
That came out in 2010.
19, so I was like 19, freshly going to college and all
10
that.
10 years ago.
Yeah. Like exactly. So I think it just hit me at the right time.
Okay.
But it's beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful film. The landscapes are stunning.
Roger Deakins.
Yeah, it has some memorable characters in it. And it was really close to the novella, so that was nice.
Which I have somewhere over on my bookshelf over there.
Yeah, if we can't find a copy, we have mine.
Have True Grit somewhere in this area, right over here, in terms of my movie collection. Actually, it's right over there.
Yeah,
yep.
Right.
So, now Jess, what do you remember as your earliest memory of going to the movies?
So, I don't have the best autobiographical memories, The only memory that really sticks out from my childhood is, for some reason, when I was 7, I guess, Mulan came out in 98, right?
I believe so, somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah, so when I was like 7-ish, I had already seen Mulan once, and my aunt, who, we rarely hung out one-to-one, like we hung out decent. I'm close to all my family, we have a very small family. She took me to see it. It was the only time we ever went to the movies, and for some reason, in the scene, spoilers if you haven't seen Mulan,
sorry, you're 20 years something too late.
No. The part where she shoots the explosives and causes the avalanche, for some reason, again, let me emphasize I had already seen this movie and knew the ending. I became irrationally terrified by it, and I started crying, and she, like, we had to leave the movie. Like, I was so hysterical. No idea why. That's probably...
It's always the best way to leave the theater is bawling your eyes out and getting hysterical, right?
Yeah, I mean, I probably wasn't as hysterical as I thought, because I could be a very stoic child, but, that's it. I don't know if she's seen the ending to it. I felt really bad.
It's funny because my first earliest memory of going to the movies was with my aunt, too.
Yeah, see?
Except I went to the Jam. The Space Jam.
Come on and slam.
Blam.
Yeah. I don't know. Sorry, Linda.
It happens.
She's over it, I'm sure.
We all cry at the movies sometimes.
Yeah.
Some of us it's Mulan, some of it's Logan.
Yeah.
Because I did.
I mean,
Got me teary-eyed.
it's very
Now,
emotional.
you did allude to this already, but what is your favorite genre?
My favorite genre is westerns. I specifically like revisionist and modern westerns. I'll watch the spaghetti westerns. Usually when I tell people that, they're like, oh, Clint Eastwood, oh, John Wayne. And I'm fine with those. Like, I enjoy those. I like to watch those. They're neat from a historical film perspective. But revisionist westerns are my favorite. So I really like Slow West. We were talking about Wind River. We were talking about Hell or High Water.
Taylor Sheridan.
True Grit.
Go check out his work.
Yeah, they're great. And I have a coworker who was like desperately trying to recommend movies for me, and that was the only one that he ended up recommending that I liked. So, solid recommendation.
Coworker tried.
He did. He really did, and I appreciate that. But as you know, it can be hard to figure out.
I think Taylor Sheridan's next film's supposed to be coming out sometime this fall, but who knows? Because when the hell do movies come out anymore? Best guess is anybody's.
If they shake the magic 8-ball, this is a good time to release a movie.
Now, we talked about genre, you talked about True Grit, but who is your favorite filmmaker?
I'm a big fan of the Coens. I think that...
We share that.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, Christopher Nolan. Yeah. I really like dialogue a lot. When I was writing when I was younger a lot. That's something that I got a lot of positive feedback about was writing dialogue. I think it's a strength of mine. You know, I talk a lot. I'm pretty good at talking. I'm pretty good at bullshitting.
She has the gift of gab.
I do. I'm not great at a lot of other things. Sustained thought is a problem with me. But I like the dialogue. I like the small characters that are thrown into the movies too. Because I think we have those people in real life. Like,
there's characters everywhere. There's that big-haired lady at the mobile home park in No Country for Old Men who's like, we don't gives out that kinds of information.
yeah.
We all know a lady like that.
There's like 5 of them in The Big Lebowski.
Literally everyone in The Big Lebowski is a strange, awkward, offbeat character.
Yeah, the bearskin guy, and
I do have my bear skin.
Yeah, it's a good time. Even the sheriff of that town is pretty cool. I mean, this young teenage girl comes up and is like, I want to exact revenge, and he goes, well, you have this marshal, and you have this marshal, and you have this marshal. Like, you never see him again.
I love the Coen brothers. It's my favorite kind of humor, that dry humor. Just comes out of nowhere. Might be a little dark sometimes, but, you know, it's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. I enjoy it.
Now, do you have a particular favorite actor or actress?
I love Jeff Bridges. I worship at the altar of Jeff Bridges.
The dude abides.
Yeah. I mean, you'll notice a lot of those movies I listed earlier have Jeff Bridges in them. True Grit, Hell or High Water, Big Lebowski. You know, there's still some on my list, especially his earlier works that I still have to look. We just watched, what was it?
Was
Thunder and Lightfoot.
Thunderbolt and Lightfoot.
Mm-hmm.
It was so great in that with Clint Eastwood. He was so young too. It's weird.
Yeah, it's a little unnerving sometimes.
Because like watching that, Last Picture Show, Tron, all those things, and he's just like so young, and now he's just so Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, yeah, he is. He's got that drawl.
It's either you get evil Jeff Bridges, so like straight out of Iron Man.
I knew you were gonna mention that.
Obadiah Stane, underappreciated MCU villain, or you get like the dude basically, and he's just like, yeah, man.
We have him in like every western.
And then you have him from Hell or High Water, or like
Sassy.
R.I.P.D. or True Grit, and he's a great actor, and he has staying power. He's been acting for a long time. Bad Times at the El Royale. I think that's the last. Trying to think of the last movie. Like he was in that and Only the Brave. He had a smaller supporting role in that, but like he's still going, and he's still putting out some great work. Now, what film could you watch literally every day and never get sick of?
You know, I don't know if there's any movie out there that I could do that, because I rapidly cycle through phases.
Because
of
you
what I
work
want.
with kids and you have to experience that sometimes in actuality.
I do, and you know, Baby Shark, and like the Days of the Week Addams Family song, and Banana Banana Meatball. Although I do enjoy Banana Banana Meatball. Yeah, you know, you hear the same song over and over.
Well, I guess reframing it then, what's a movie that you have to watch like at least once a year and come back to?
There's none that I really feel obligated to, but I find myself watching Forgetting Sarah Marshall at least once a year.
I was thinking she was gonna say that.
Yeah, Forgetting Sarah Marshall really, like, I don't know, I just feel drawn to it at certain points in my life.
He wore those sweatpants for 7 straight days.
I know, just because they were Kirkland brand.
You have to keep your cereal fresh, and Paul Rudd is ageless and a complete idiot, apparently. Kunu just, trying to teach you how to live life, and it's always, you gotta do more or you gotta do less, and you never find that perfect spot, because if you do too less, then you're not doing anything. He's like, well, now you're not doing anything.
It's a great metaphor for life.
Such a crazy bunch of characters.
Yeah, I mean, there's some movies that I love, but it's hard to watch them repeatedly. Like, I see Big Fish up there. Do I love that movie? Yeah, but like, I can't watch it all the time.
Sometimes you can't go on that feels trip a whole lot.
Yeah, and I tend towards very like long, emotional movies.
Honestly, a lot of the movies that I watch over and over again are stupid comedies.
Yeah.
Or Shrek. Because I could quote it from start to finish.
Yeah.
But I won't do that today, I promise.
But I think comedies have that, like, I mean, you watch it because who doesn't want to laugh?
I think the movie I've watched the most over the past couple years is Mad Max Fury Road, but let's be real here. Because can't say no to 2 hours of nonstop action.
Yeah.
If it wasn't such an investment, I'd watch Lord of the Rings more. But, like, it's a commitment. It's hard sometimes to find 4 straight hours straight when you want to watch, like, the extended edition of Return of the King.
And it's hard to just pull one out, because then it's like, well, I forgot about the order.
Well, now I want to watch all of them all in a row, and then that's literally a whole entire day commitment.
Yeah.
So, how often do you want to do that?
Truly. Just, yeah.
Wonderful. Now, what film connects closely to another interest of yours that you love?
So that's a good question. I have a lot of interest. So we already went over Westerns. I do like historical firearms. But I guess it's not a particular one, but, you know, I will find people knitting or crocheting in movies or TV, and I will point out, I'll be like, they're really
Are they
knitting.
actually doing it? Do they know actually how to do it?
Because a lot of them, they'll be like this with the needles sticking like this, and it's like, if you did that, it would fall off your needle, or you'll see like an obvious swatch that somebody else did, and they're actually knitting, but it's like a different gauge and intention, and it's a whole thing. It's probably that. Probably anything where it looks like, usually it's like an older woman, they're just like, here, look like you're doing something, and fiddle around, and they're
You're
just
an old lady, you can knit or crochet. Go to it.
Yeah, it's refreshing to see when people can do it. But I guess somewhat linked to that, Lord of the Rings has a lot of handmade, like obviously handmade pieces, which is cool.
Beautiful. I also find that when we watch movies together, if somebody's riding a horse and you can tell if they actually know how to ride a horse or not. Because, like, watching No Country for Old Men, like, I forget what the actor's name is, but it's his silly, like, deputy guy who actually looks like he can ride a horse, and, like, Tommy Lee Jones is a little shaky on the horse.
It's hard. You know what? Horseback riding is hard. You need a lot of muscles in your legs to be able to sit through stuff. And
so the moral of the story is, if you want somebody to watch your movie and find out if it's accurate or not, just ask Jess, because she'll be able to do that.
Yeah. I'm not 100% accurate with horse stuff, but you can definitely tell when someone's sitting through like a gallop or a canter or trots, and yeah, you can definitely tell.
Now, what movie character do you connect with on a personal level? I know you talked a little bit about True Grit already, but are there any other characters that you feel like a strong personal connection to?
Yeah, well, we talked about Peter from Forgetting Sarah Marshall a little bit. Who among us hasn't had any moments of, desperation, or when he's sitting at the piano and thinking about how much he sucks and hates himself. But
You need therapy.
Yeah, go to a psychiatrist. I connect with George Clooney's character from The Descendants as well. Unfortunately, I don't have the problem deciding what to do with a large swath of land in Hawaii. But I think that it's relatable to be stuck between, you know, in those morally gray areas, like keeping your family's land and making a lot of money, and then having to deal with a lot of personal issues, you know, with his wife and everything in between that, and his one daughter, and well, both of them. I think Scotty, the younger one, she's a little mean.
Yeah, she's a little
She's a
out of control a little bit.
Yeah, well, they both are, I think, in different ways. You have
Yeah.
the one in rehab, and then you have the one who's just like antagonizing
Other girls in school.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you just need a grandfather to deck a guy in the face, like Robert
Sometimes,
Forster
yeah,
does in that movie.
I mean, that's a great part, but I guess just the way that he's like trying to do the rightest thing. There's no right thing to do in that scenario, so I relate to that.
Do you find yourself like George Clooney paranoid, like pointing at people when you get upset?
No, because I'm not aggressive generally when I get upset. Usually I cry.
It's okay.
It's great. It's great adaptation.
If you want a movie to have a good cry, go watch The Descendants.
Yeah, I usually do have a good cry when I watch that.
I have a special connection to that film because when I was in Great Performances in Film class in college, I had to write a paper about performances in film. And at that point, I had two movies I could have went to go see. It was either going to see The Descendants or Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. Guess which one I picked?
Nice.
I kind of wanted to pick Spirit of Vengeance, though, and just talk about how hammy Nick Cage can be. You know, in the trailer, he did pee fire. So I think that would have been a good choice, too. But I think The Descendants was probably something my professor would have rather have read about. Going out on a limb there.
Yeah. I don't think I took that course. I think it was something else in film where we went to see Hugo as a field trip. That was.
You saw the Children in the I took Children in the Media as well.
Media. Okay.
Except Hugo didn't come out the year I took that, so I didn't get to go see Hugo. But it's a good movie, and it's a weird movie coming from Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, that caught me off guard a little bit. I didn't know anything about it. I'm really bad at watching trailers usually.
Good, because trailers are bad.
Yeah.
They ruin movies.
I forget what movie burned me on that, but
Many burned me on that.
Yeah.
Now, what film do you love that you think would surprise people to find out that you love this movie?
Literally any Western. I don't know. I think it's
sexism.
Probably, honestly. But I'm trying to think. Probably any Western, just because I get why a lot, and I'm like, I get defensive about it. I think that my tastes in movies are usually hard to discern for people, because I've had a lot of people say, I think you'll love this, and I'll be like, I watched it and hated it. Or,
They tried.
They did, and I appreciate them trying. I don't want to punish them for trying.
Recommending films for people is a hard business.
It really is. You have to know them really well.
And people ask me all the time, so I do really try to think about things. And I think who's going to be joining my show next is my brother. And I have a hard time predicting movies that he's definitely going to enjoy. Because, like, does he love horror movies? Yes. Was he not impressed by either Jordan Peele movie that I showed him? Yes. And I'm like, what do you mean you didn't love this movie?
Yeah.
But that's a hard thing to do. But I definitely think that most people wouldn't guess like a 20-something-year-old woman would probably love Westerns. But that's an assumption that you shouldn't make.
That's true. I get a lot of flack for not liking romantic comedies as well, in general.
I could pass on most
person.
rom-coms.
It needs to have like except for Any Sarah Marshall, it needs to have like a realistic ending. Like, I'm not a fan of the whole, like, what movie did we watch a little bit ago that I just...
Oh, the one that I love, Crazy Stupid Love, that you just went, like, we watched that recently and just spiraling feelings about it.
Yeah, I still like it more than I dislike it. I really,
David Lindhagen.
I had a really visceral reaction to, I'm looking at Before Midnight right now.
Oh, yes. If you ever want to get Jess on a tirade about... Well, actually, you could just bring up Ethan Hawke. and that could start things for you. But yes, that Before Midnight was an interesting finale to that trilogy.
I think it's realistic. Like, now that I'm older, I think it's realistic. You know, it just, when I was younger.
When we watched that in our mid-20s, not a great reaction.
No, I was really mad. But
that Ethan Hawke face. Can't help it. Now, what do you love most about movies?
I think I like that it provides a place and time. So, like, we tried going through that movie poster and going through different eras, and I feel like you can really tell what was popular at that era. I think that's probably my favorite part. Is I think that if you look critically at it, or if you just take a sampling at a slice of time, you really can place that time, like what was important, what was probably popular at that time. You know, we watched X2 right last night, and
yes,
I'm like, wow, this is really early 2000s.
It's like, when did this come out? Early 2000s.
Right
I'm like,
from the DVD
yes.
menu.
Well,
and it was just the zooming in and all the
yep.
CGI, and then the haircuts, like the
people
still had like frosted tips. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but
it was very like,
it's either spiky hair, like long.
Well, because it opens up at the museum that they're at, and it's a bunch of teenage boys that honestly the actors are probably all in their mid-20s, but you know, they're teenage boys. But like, they had those early 2000s haircuts, and it's just like, yeah. But yeah, Jess mentioned that we were watching a poster of the 100 essential films, and like, one of them on there, which we didn't get around to watching, was a Philadelphia Story. Mm-hmm. And Katharine Hepburn gets decked in the face by Cary Grant. If I'm not, it's either, I'm trying to remember, it's him or Clark Gable. I know Jimmy Stewart's in it, and I forget the other actor, but like, she gets punched in the face, she lands on her butt, and it's just like, oh shucks. And it's just like,
Yeah.
Within 2 minutes, I'm like, well, this aged poorly in the past 80 years since this movie came out.
Or even, what was it, Some Like It Hot? I was just kind of like, ooh, no, this wouldn't fly.
And no, it wouldn't. It like,
yikes.
You know what's sad is the equivalent to Some Like It Hot today was like White Chicks.
I never saw it. I'm sure I'm not missing anything, but...
I've seen parts. That was like one of those movies, like when you were growing up and like Comedy Central was on, and you might watch part of a comedy and just be like, what the hell is this? That's White Chicks. But the basic idea is like, they are trying to hide dressed up as women. Obviously the added layer to that is two black men dressed up as white women. But like in Some Like It Hot, it's two men dressed up as women, and it would be really interesting watching that movie in color.
Mm-hmm.
To see actually how realistic their disguises looked.
Yeah, maybe that lended itself well.
But I love Some Like It Hot. I got to actually watch it in the theater at Princeton Garden Theater, so that was pretty cool. But like, yeah, it's interesting that it captures that time and place. And
well, it's cool too, seeing the movies that predicted, you know, where the future would go. But I think that's art and writing and you know, film in general. Because people are really tapped into the, what was it, zeitgeist.
Yeah, just ask Apple. Trying to say they invented a rectangular tablet.
Yeah.
Arthur C. Clarke and Stanley Kubrick did Apple. Don't try to patent it.
Well, it's probably a case of throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks.
Well, my business degree can get into this conversation and discuss Apple versus Samsung, but we don't have to do that today. But I do appreciate the fact that it's just like, it's that moment in time. So those are all my questions for Jess here. Now we have a little bit of a wild card where Jess has to ask me a question, and I have to answer it. So what's your question?
Alright. When you're watching a new film, what do you find most salient to you? So like, for example, is it the cinematography? Is it the dialogue? Is it the casting? Is it, you know?
Always for me, it's cinematography. Like, how the film looks is always the first thing that I notice. And it puts me off when I'm watching a film and it's just like, this looks like crap. And like, I love the MCU with a passion, as they're all like sitting right next to my head here. But especially the Joss Whedon and Peyton Reed films, like the first two Avengers films and the Ant-Man films, they look like they're a TV show and filmed that way. And it's like, and I understand they're trying to keep like a consistent look to them because, you know, it's the Marvel machine, you have to keep it going. But like, at least the Russo brothers brought some zest to it, but like you can even say even with Winter Soldier and Civil War, they're still like look kind of like a TV show. But it's always like that really hits me the most when I'm watching a film is the technical aspects of the film. And you know, I love Christopher Nolan, but need to get a better sound mixer. And actually, it worked out nicely that we saw Tenet in a drive-in when we could actually adjust the volume.
Yeah, it was hard to. That was hard to understand.
And especially when they're trying to explain to you or condescend to you about really complicated issues.
Don't worry about it, but electrons and neutrons and radioactive
and things and stuff.
Geiger counters.
But, and also
Science.
casting too, because like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm still in the place where it's like, if I see a certain actors in a movie, I get more excited about it. Even though, in general, the movie stars kind of died out a little bit, and they don't really sell anymore. It's franchises that really sell, which sucks because, like, original stories are awesome, and you want to see more of them, but really, it's still a business, and it's tough. And unless you're The Rock, most people aren't like
Highest paid actor in Hollywood.
The Rock. But
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
I've been watching pro wrestling since I was in 8th grade, so he is The Rock to me. But that's okay. His name is Dwayne Johnson. I don't think his father named him The Rock, so it's okay. But in general, it's definitely the technical aspects, like the cinematography. And like I can be lost in a film based off of, like we were just watching, which I'm going to be posting the review for, The Wolf of Snow Hollow. And right off the bat, it had really good cinematography and was setting the tone for this isolated town. And it had the late Robert Forster in it. So both those things got me hooked real quick. I have my feelings about the rest of the film, but you could shamelessly go over and watch that when I post that video this week. Shameless plugs. But that's going to be a wrap for today with Lost in the Wasteland. I appreciate Jess being willing to be my guinea pig here. And in general, the rest of the videos are going to be probably shot through Zoom. We happen to live together, so it made this a little bit easier and a legitimate interview format like we have right here. But thank you for playing along, and I hope you all enjoyed getting a new perspective on films from the Wasteland Reviewer YouTube channel, and I'm hoping that we have plenty more. So, honestly, people out in the YouTube verse who review movies and stuff like that, if you're interested in hopping on the show, just set a comment on this video. But I'm going to be inviting some of, like I mentioned before, my brother's going to be hopping on next, and then my friends Matt and Vinny and Alex, who I do collaborative work with, I'm hoping they'll come on next as well. So, all fun new perspectives on film. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.